Hello and welcome, everyone. It is time to enter the Kumite. I'm joined today by our technical engineer, the 9-4 Ninja himself, Sean Myers. Today, we will be bringing Shavkat Rakhmonov into the arena. But first, if you enjoy the content we're creating, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, Shavkat NOMAD Rakhmonov. Born on October 23rd, 1994, in Tumani, Uzbekistan. He lives most of his life in Kazakhstan and currently competes in the UFC's welterweight division. He moved to Kazakhstan, he says, because it's easier to get a job. He worked as a loader for supplies while learning Russian and Kazakh and training without fully knowing the used languages. He was speaking about some of his hardships on, learning some of these things when he didn't know the languages and just some of those, communication transitions and whatnot. He trained in Uzbek wrestling, boxing, Thai boxing, and even football. He ultimately chose to be a fighter because he says he was inspired by the stories of his warrior ancestors who defended his homeland in their time. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And, everybody kind of derives a sense of that warrior spirit from their ancestors as well. There's a lot of inspiration to be taken from, your predecessors. But he's the first fighter from Kazakhstan to sign a UFC contract. Kazakhstan has been producing a lot of top-notch fighters who have been competing very well in Europe's GFC organization, the Guerrilla Fighting Championship. So they're doing really well over there. We're probably going to see a lot more crossovers. In Kazakhstan, young kids are learning MMA in somewhat of like a university setting. They start very young and have multiple phases of training and learning throughout the day. This is going to create some killers, guys, and we're likely going to see them very soon. I stumbled across one video shedding some light on the young kids that look up to Shavkat and, see being an MMA champion as somewhat of like their destiny, so to speak. I'm excited for the influx of Kazakhstan fighters that are growing up right now. I love to see all of these, different people from all over the world, backgrounds and different geographies and different cultures and religions, and just see them all have this one thing in common. They fight. They're warriors. They embrace that. I love it. Gives me the little butterflies. He looks to be very comfortable in the cage. Shavkat Rakhmonov. He keeps a level head about him during even the most chaotic of exchanges. It's good to see him putting his focus into analyzing opponents and showing his fight IQ and intelligence rather than getting overwhelmed in the moment. But let's put him under the microscope. Let's see what there is to notice. Maybe some strengths, some weaknesses, his grappling habits, his striking habits. But starting off with the grappling, his wrestling base is combat sambo. He goes for a lot of trips, sweeps, throws. I wouldn't say that he's the best at controlling his opponents, but he does have some nasty ground and pound and very good scrambles. He utilizes overhooks to prevent people from getting the takedown and even end up with an advantageous position. I've seen him many times use that whizzer and end up on top or pushing them against the cage or landing some big blows while holding onto that whizzer. He likes to pin down his opponent's wrist, slice through their guard. You saw it against Braceras in his last fight. But Braceras, being savvy on the ground, noticed it and used some really nice butterfly hooks in that fight. He will very aggressively go for submissions when he sees the opportunity, but he never gives up position to chase it. He tapped out Alex Oliveira, the Brazilian cowboy, with a guillotine and the rear naked choke against Braceras. I feel like he's honestly a striker first, but his grappling is just so good. He's very well-rounded. He's truly a mixed martial artist. He's strong enough in almost all of the grappling positions to land some bombs on the ground. He stopped a good amount of jiu-jitsu guys that were sort of lazy about their striking defense on the ground in some of his earlier fights before the UFC. He does a good job at keeping his weight high on his opponent and staying chest to chest, making it very hard to sweep him from the bottom. So we've looked into his grappling a little bit. at least the basics of it. So let's dig into the striking, right? Let's look at him. Look at his striking in the arena. He fights very long and very responsibly. He can throw all kinds of kicks at range and can easily end the fight. He's caught a lot of people with these crazy spinning heel kicks, and he's really good at putting his kicks behind a combo with his hands rather than throwing them naked. That's good to see. Too often lately, people have just been throwing kicks. And if you have a good opponent in there, they're going to time that, and they're going to mess you up because of it. This helps him to cover up his kicks so his opponent can't time that counter. He's very consistent with his jab, but it's hard to read when he's going to throw it. He's going to be doing it the whole fight. He's really good at catching you on that downbeat and setting you up for a downbeat. He doesn't telegraph it at all. He just steps in and will throw it right through your guard. He's really good at timing his knees down the middle when someone shoots in for a takedown. Ooh, man, it's dangerous. Every time someone shoots for a takedown, I just cringe a little because he almost goes for that knee every time. And he's going to catch a knockout in the UFC with that. Someone's going to shoot for a desperate takedown. He's going to see it from a mile away, and he's going to time that knee right up the middle. He also uses his knees to pressure people when they're retreating. He'll straight up run at them and throw a flying knee. If they're hurt or they're backing against a cage, he will go full sprint, flying knee towards them. And he's very good at aiming that flying knee, too. I'm not going to lie. He's a phenomenal counter striker. He's constantly using feints. He has good head movement. He likes to slip on the inside of a jab and throw the right overhand, or step back and throw the right hook. I love when he slips a jab and lands the power uppercut. Oh, so beautiful. You have to have a really good understanding of fighting to land something like that. Typically, when he's throwing power shots, he tends to throw a little wide. I would like to see him kind of clean that up a little bit. And when he is going for powers, throw wide sometimes. That's fine if you're going around the guard. But I would like to see him throw more of his, all eggs in the basket power shots more down the center. I'd like to see him throw a little bit straighter. Sometimes he seems a little bit slow on the reaction to faster fighters, people who are faster than him. There have been a few guys that he has fought that were just faster and more explosive and ended up giving him a hard time catching him clean. He's got a good chin. He's got good recovery. Fortunately, he used his high IQ to walk away with the win. He's dangerous on the feet every second of the fight, no matter who you are. But he also has that grappling. He mixes that in if he feels that someone's faster and more explosive. And he's going to start mixing that in to make them second-guess themselves. He does a really good job at tagging hooks onto the end of his combos. He got many people by throwing one more punch than someone would expect, and they let their guard down. I'm excited for this guy. He is a phenomenal striker, a phenomenal grappler. Following his win over Michel Prazeres, he said that he'd like to fight someone in the top 15. I think the UFC is going to give it to him because he's already built quite a reputation for himself outside of the UFC. And he took on Oliveira and Prazeres in his first 2 UFC fights. Those are not easy fights. Those are some hard asks. And he came out dominant in both of those fights. Those are very notable wins having under your belt so early on. Not to mention that he finished both of them and put on good performances. This kid is great everywhere, man. He's part of the new generation who learns MMA as a whole, not as individual mechanics. I'd say he's a tough fight for anyone in the top 15. He recently called out Donald Cerrone, saying, "I've beaten the Brazilian cowboy. Now I'd like to beat the American cowboy." Just taking out all the cowboys, huh? Well, fights I'd like to see, though, would be Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think that'd be a fantastic fight for him to really try to break into the top 15. Maybe Sean Brady. That'd be another good one. I feel like that would be very exciting. Both of those would really show us if he belongs in the top 15 or not. I do believe Ponzinibbio would be higher in the rankings if he wasn't plagued with injuries a few years ago. So Ponzinibbio may be a little bit too early for him because I feel like I feel like Ponzinibbio is better than what his number shows, honestly. But that's another video for another day. There are all kinds of other components that I could go into in regards to Shavkat Rakhmonov, but I like to keep these videos somewhat relatively short and sweet. But with that, guys, we will wrap up our analysis of Shavkat Nomad Rakhmonov. I'd like to thank everyone for entering the Kumite with us here today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, guys, this is not a sport. You don't play fight.